We'll jam this one in here, shall we?
Don't threaten me with a good time. Paint me a picture.
Oh, maybe I should buy you a drink first.
Yes, I'll take a sweet sangria.
Ah.
It's always a balmy day when you have to turn off the aircon so we can record.
Yes. The aircon was making such a loud noise that we had to turn it off, and so hopefully we won't take too long recording this, otherwise we'll be in a sauna by the end of the session.
We'll expire. We'll surely perish. But actually, it's looking to be a pretty swift and direct episode. We've got a few wee things to say. We just want to hit you with the good stuff and just...
And then on top of that, I've just tonight had a great chat with Michael Gillies about Sweet Sangria.
Yay!
Who served us Sweet Sangria when we were house guests.
Among a bunch of other delights. You'll have heard all about it. And we still have to post the menu. Maybe we'll post it off this episode.
Yeah.
We haven't actually posted the episode that I'm talking about yet.
Yeah. We've recorded a bunch.
You'll have heard.
I haven't edited, but by the time you hear this, you will have heard the others.
Oh, dear.
Hi, I'm Michael Earp.
And I'm Bayley Turner.
Welcome to Michael's Walk.
The podcast.
Michael's Walk is a road trip, a search for something. Spoilers! It's myself, and it was inside all along.
If only it were that simple.
Driven by Tori Amos's album, Scarlett's Walk, I'm recreating the journey Scarlett took in its 20th anniversary year.
I'll also be there.
With the loving and patient,
Always patient.
support of Bayley and Teague, 3 trans queers set out across America
That's 33 states in 55 days.
to connect with the songs, the land that inspired them, and the fans inspired by the songs. We'll talk music, travel, healing, and hope as we ask the questions: how do I heal from 15 years of coercive control and manipulation?
And what role does the music we listen to play in our own relationship narratives?
We've self-produced this podcast and trip.
You can support us via GoFundMe.
For the full story, head to michaelerp.net.
Goodness.
So, Sweet Sangria on Scarlett's map runs just a cheeky ways along the coast between San Antonio and Houston.
Yeah.
And according to Scarlett's stories, it's about Scarlett meeting a revolutionary who's very passionate about political issues and injustices, as particularly concerning Latin and Central America, but ultimately realizes the kind of vigilante attitude that he has will also cost too many innocent lives, and she's not able to decide how far in she's willing to go for the cause, even though she believes in it, and really cottons on to his passion.
Yeah, and as far as our trip on this, I didn't get one. COVID stole it from me. But Teague and Bayley were able to visit Houston and San Antonio.
We didn't do the full coastal drive, but we did get a bit of time in each city, so I'm just going to talk about those. Tell you about my Sweet Sangria journey. Well, we flew into San Antonio from Santa Fe, and we're staying at a Holiday Inn situation, and our really only things that we did in San Antonio were visit the Alamo, which was a sort of last fort of the West kind of situation during the war and during all the sort of early days of America. We also did the Riverwalk, which I can thoroughly recommend. It was beautiful.
Lots of pride flags out of that time.
Yes, there were. Yeah, this was June, and we had been tasked by Michael to have a sangria somewhere along the way, and we made our way from San Antonio to Houston on the freeways. For me and Teague, it was a really wonderful time of getting to know each other a lot better. The kind of first day that we were together, we were kind of still reeling from, Michael not being with us anymore. And we were headed to Houston where we were staying with Teague's cousin, who he hadn't seen or kind of been in contact with for quite some time. So it was going to be a really interesting kind of situation that we realized we needed each other's support for. So the Alamo was a really tough experience for both of us. We found it really grim and jarring because you've kind of got this massacre site basically with a gift shop and tour guides and tourists complaining that there isn't enough aircon in the sort of
Yeah.
trenches, but also it was full of information and exhibits, about kind of the atrocities, and the whole thing, from what I could tell, the fort itself was built on top of like a monastery, effectively a kind of spiritual place for Native Americans, which was there to kind of assert their dominance, but also ensure that the place would continue to be populated and that Native Americans could still work. And it was kind of like they held it hostage. And the more I read about it, the more sickened I became, and we kind of decided to head out. It was a really disgusting experience, which made it very appropriate for the sort of sweet sangria message visiting the Alamo. And we needed to take a bit of a break on the Riverwalk, and by the time we got to Houston, I think, what we were really feeling was loss. We'd had a couple of days just basically getting from A to B as swiftly and as best we could because we were missing our sort of compass, Michael being stuck in Palm Springs. And we didn't have kind of the relationship to be able to get too deep or sort of connect deeply to where we were. So we felt kind of like we were skating. It was very much it felt like almost a superficial experience. It was like we just kind of want to know where we are and what we're doing and what are we getting out of this. And so we got to actually watch the news in San Antonio, and there was a lot of talk back then at that time about the Uvalde shooting. And we ended up being able to watch a bunch of it on the news and then have a really good chat with people who lived in Texas about it, particularly about, at that time, this is before Roe versus Wade was overturned. So, it's not as big a news item now, but at that time, people were talking about changing school designs to only have one door in and out because that was what they blamed the whole situation on. Was like, oh, well, if there weren't as many entrances and exits, the shooter wouldn't know how to get in. So let's just build schools with only one door. And they were demolishing the school anyway, which I was like, well, how is that the solution? Like, instead of actually controlling gun use and gun ownership, we're going to demolish an education facility for children. We'd rather do that than acknowledge that this is an issue. It was just so cooked. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of really what that sort of sweet sangria journey was about. It was about sort of trying to connect to each other and find out about each other's lives and families and interests in the trip. We did actually find our sangria. I told the story on another episode, but we did get to head to Michael's Outpost and have a beer, and then we went to meet the wonderful James, who spotted us a sangria-esque cocktail that he had crafted from scratch on the house. Yeah, so I think in terms of it connecting with what sweet sangria is, by the time we got to Houston, we realized that we really needed to understand the country a lot better than we had, and than we really could with how quickly we were moving through things. And I suppose that's what kind of Tori's talking about with Scarlett. Like, she needed a deeper understanding of America and its underbellies and its issues. And you've kind of got someone who, we didn't meet a vigilante as such, but we did get to find someone who could really help us understand what was going on and why this continues to be such a difficult hurdle for America to overcome.
Yeah. Well, even though you struggled to connect, and I certainly feel like you had experiences to share. I mean, we have talked about them all.
Yeah.
I wish I had more insight to share from
We wish you were there as well, my love.
my time. But, I mean, my time was not misspent. I did a lot of admin that I had been ignoring up until that point, and I did all the admin that was necessary because of the COVID and the change of plans. But then I was able to center myself a bit, and I did some interviews via Zoom and sort of touch base with what I was trying to achieve here and everything, and set some personal goals. So,
the message of Sweet Sangria wasn't lost on us either because of how the journey turned out in other songs and stretches, including our time in Washington, D.C.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So, we still have had...
spirit of Sweet Sangria has been with us throughout this whole trip.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Balmy days, left, right, and
Oh
centre.
my God, yes.
We've had sangria at a number of different places, and yeah, we really are discussing all of the ways that people are in conflict, and how difficult it can be to resolve those differences.
Absolutely. So the song, let's talk about what the song kind of really means for us.
So it really sort of speaks to when you know that two groups of people are in conflict and you feel on side with one of them more than the other. But I think I kind of get the impression that Scarlett is not flippantly, but wistfully maybe, wishing that innocence wouldn't be, found on both harmed and injured. I'll get my words out eventually. But yeah, the whole why does someone have to lose is more why can't we put our selfishness aside and stop this cycle of violence rather than necessarily dismiss, like having a childish dream of just like, why can't we all just get along? I think she really wants that proper discussion and deliberation. It's just that this vigilante person is all guns a-blazing, and she can see how that's just going to lead to more pain.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like, how can we stop violence without resorting to more violence?
Yeah, and particularly when the violence is systemic and generational and racial and so unkilted. No, what's the word I'm looking for?
You're out of kilter
Out
or
of
unbalanced.
kilter. Yeah, those two. We'll mix them together.
What would you do without me, Michael?
I don't know. Don't ever leave me.
I shan't. I've got no interest in that. Yeah, I suppose for me, it's such a beautiful song. Once you can sort of get... I remember I used to think the song was kind of sexy. It kind of has this
a
real
vibe, that's for sure.
But as I sort of learnt more about it, because I kind of read when we were in Texas, knowing that we were on Sweet Sangria, and I felt kind of like, well, I'm the only Tory person here, so I'd better kind of be switched on. And I had to, read the story and listen to the lyrics, listen to the song, and I thought, it's a really great tool to, wake people up to what you're contributing and prompt people to decide what contributions they can make in their own life. And also, recognizing, in the experiences that I've had since our Sweet Sangria time, there've been multiple times where people have come up to us and kind of identified that they're happy to see us, or that just the side of us and the way that we live and the way that we're proud of our identities comes across, and people are happy to see it. And that is a radical political act. Yeah. I've had people stop on their bikes, or people come over in the middle of Disney World to tell me that they appreciate who I am and what I represent as a trans person. So we've had those experiences, and Sweet Sangria kind of encourages you to make that decision for yourself. I suppose that's the great thing about it, is you don't have to be radicalized by another person. You can you need to make your own decisions.
Yeah, you need to make your own.
And if you want to take on an extremist style when it comes to certain views, and I know that I can be a bit like that, that's an all right decision to make. But it has to be a decision that comes from the heart and comes from a real place. Otherwise, you're going to...
Yeah, I completely agree, because for me, I just like the narrative behind this song makes me wonder how anyone thought that building a wall would be a solution that would benefit anybody.
Well, I suppose that's the point, is it was a solution for xenophobia. Yes. And it wasn't ever meant to be a solution to any problem. It was there to create a problem that doesn't really exist, to sort of say, well, these people are coming in and they're taking all your jobs, and we're going to stop them by building a wall, or, you know, these people are coming in and, you know, well, I mean, Trump like said that all people were coming in were rapists and like fucked up bullshit, and, you know, and prevented anyone with a passport from a Middle Eastern country from entering America by basically playing on racist tropes that exist in places where those tropes are allowed to fester because there isn't enough diversity in the communities, and there isn't enough education or teachings of tolerance and equality and social progress. Yeah, it's bananas. But
so I guess the crux of this song for me then is Tori urging, or Scarlett, however you want to view it, urging us forward, making our own decisions, and trying to identify and follow non-violent means wherever possible.
Yeah.
I mean, that can absolutely be applied to relationships as well. I mean, obviously this isn't as relationship heavy as some of the others.
no.
In fact, the Scarlett story that Tori speaks of makes me think that she's basically saying, oh yeah, Scarlett hooks up with a vigilante and spends a few like saucy days in the bottom of Texas drinking sangria and like having heated discussions over the state of politics.
Yeah, and raw dogging it.
Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, from that perspective, from the relationship thing, it's what happens when you... I mean, we've talked about this before about, you know, the political... Don't get caught up in the politics of your partner. We talked about this, I think, in Virginia.
Yeah.
But what happens when you do meet a bit of an impasse with your partner, you know, in any sense, you know, whether it's a difference of opinion on politics or a difference of opinion on lifestyle or raising a child or you know, any other kind of social justice issue, you know, it's kind of at this time decide. You know.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the chat with Michael, where he brought a whole new perspective that verged into fan fiction of this song.
Oh, I can't wait to... well, let's get that on.
So have a listen to this. It's great.
So I've got Michael Gillies here, our delightful hosts in Toronto, to talk about Sweet Sangria. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the song and what makes it special for you.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
It's Michael and Michael out.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Michael times 2. Michael squared. Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. And it was really wonderful to meet with you and host you and Bayley in Toronto, I guess maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so it's so lovely to meet you both and give you a little bit of a taste of Canada. And,
Yeah.
Some
and how
sangria as
tasty
well.
it was, both your meal and then that goodie bag you gave us. Like, we were just... And the maple candies, like, we didn't try them for a day or like a couple of days after we left. But then when we did, we're like, oh my God, these are incredible.
The maple candies are very good. Yeah, very good. So much so we got a shout out from Tori at her concert in Toronto. Myself and my cousin Samantha, we left her maple candies with flowers and with letters at the virtual meet. And then Samantha had requested a sort of fairy tale. And before a sort of fairy tale, she thanked the folks who brought the maple candies. And it was just such a lovely moment. It was such a lovely exchange. We were upgraded to the front row. So we were in the front row and we got that lovely shout out. And she played a sort of fairy tale. And then there was some ruckus as well in the audience. So she had a little bit of a classic live Tori meltdown moment.
Yeah, was that the one where she shouted at security again?
Yeah. Except I don't think it was even a real security guard. I think it was someone acting like security and wanting people to sit down and to not dance. So like stop dancing. And she got up from her piano bench and told the band to keep playing and then was like, fuck off. And then she changed that to, oh, sweetie, no, sweetie. And she just kind of stood there with her arms crossed. stared down this man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually some very like it's some very sweet sangria energy. I know it was fairy tale, but a Scarlet
Yeah.
song. And I've kind of been thinking about this character, this version of Scarlet in Sweet Sangria. And she's a little sassy, you know? She's a little aggressive.
Yeah, well,
That
she's
side of
she's
Scarlet.
hanging out with a vigilante, so I think he's rubbing off on her to a certain degree.
Right. And then what we have like a classic Western showdown, desperados. And
And all the sharpshooters.
yeah. And then I think from there, this cowboy or this desperado has to flee to Mexico, to the border, to the breaking point, right? There's a lot of strong lyrics in this song. There's a lot of like really great storytelling that's a little bit like more literal than Tori sometimes is, like very direct storytelling. It definitely paints a very clear picture of that classic Western hot day in the desert.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you relate to it, seeing it's such a clear story of Scarlet and this man? Yeah, what makes it special for you?
I mean, I love this song on a hot day, right? Balmy day, sweet sangria. There's been this heat wave right now across like Eastern America, New York, Canada, like feeling like 40 today. And it makes you realize that pressure of the heat. We're put under pressure when we're in that heat.
It changes the way you think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like there's that intensity hitting the pavement and the steam coming off the concrete. But this song, it's like a cool down after a really hot, intense moment. You're having that delicious glass of sangria, right?
Yeah.
You're cooling off. The moment's over. You're out of the heat. But yeah, she's a sassy song.
The verses almost hint at their differing opinions and the almost arguments that they're having, even though they're getting along. And then the chorus comes in, and it's the cool off moment when they're on each other's side again and they're drinking their sangria.
Yeah, we've got some fantastic drums. Like I think the drums are really powerful on this track. It's like Matt Chamberlain is just pounding pavement. I don't think I've ever seen Sweet Sangria live. I would love to. I know she was alive and well on this past tour.
We got her in San Antonio.
Perfect, right?
Yeah. In fact, on the very day that Bayley had been saying, I want something summery like Sweet Sangria. And then that's what we got. So
bam. Yeah, I know there was quite a few fans trying to request that song and get that song to show up. And I know like Peter Zimmerman, that's a favorite of his. And he's been a real tour, road dog, every show. Lovely human being. Yeah, Sweet Sangria is amazing. I really wish that it was included on the Welcome to Sunny Florida DVD. It was part of that show. It was the first encore and it was recorded with Past the Mission, but it never made the cut for whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really disappointing.
Right? Wouldn't that have been amazing live? And to see on the DVD, I mean, that DVD was a treasure. That sounds cliche because it came with Scarlet's Hidden Treasures, but yes, it was a treasure. And I love putting on Welcome to Sunny Florida on a really hot, humid, rainy, steamy, balmy day, right? That's really the vibe, that frizzy hair. Yeah,
that frizzy hair. I struggle to watch that show simply because of the hair. I spend my whole time just wanting to like give her hair a treatment. Which is ridiculous.
Borderline dreadlocks, right? In that era, in that show. It's like some beeswax curl.
But I did become heavily obsessed with the Welcome to Sunny Florida Crucify for a long time.
Yes. with the bongo drums.
Yeah.
Just those beautiful bongos and just slower tempo, and she just nurses that
The
song.
slower tempo. Yeah.
She's just stressing it out, stretching it out, massaging it, you know. Yeah, I was looking at the Scarlet's Walk CD case, the jewel case. I took it off the shelf and was looking at the booklet for the first time in a while. And on the, I guess on the Polaroid that has Carbon, Crazy, Wampum Prayer, Don't Make Me Come to Vegas, and Sweet Sangria, we have that older gentleman, or the desperado, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess he's
yeah,
like the
'cause
part
that-
of the story that weaves through these songs.
I always thought that he was a sort of guide figure in the Scarlet storyline, or in Tori's experience of making the album. Yeah, maybe he is this other character. Those photos are so beautiful and intriguing, and hint at worlds that we don't really see.
Yeah, there's so much there in that photo series, and I love the photo on the back of her with her hair blowing in the wind, you know, standing on this dirt road, dresses blowing in the wind, and this giant big sky. It's really quite an
Yeah.
epic, adventure that she takes us on with these songs. And last night I was kind of thinking about Sweet Sangria, and I was listening to it and, you know, writing down some random thoughts. But
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, she's a sassy character. She's almost a bit passive aggressive, Scarlet, you know, but in the best way.
Okay.
And I think we see more of this like passive aggressiveness with her on Sweet Sangria and like Pancake, right? Like there's a very clear message I'm trying to send to you, but I'm speaking in riddles and poetry, right?
Yeah, they are two of the more openly political songs, I guess.
Yeah, that I can't see behind the mask of those who call themselves the good guys. So I love this vibe of just calling out shit. I mean, that's just such Tori's big energy anyway, but Scarlett's very clever and cunning about it.
Well,
And
Scarlett's on her own journey, and so she doesn't want to, like, I don't know. She's still, particularly at this point in the album's narrative, she still hasn't sort of found her own feet in a way that she can stand up for herself like she does when she hits Scarlet's Walk, the title track.
yeah,
And that's when she comes into her own, and she's had these experiences and she's able to say exactly what's on her mind.
mhm.
And so, yeah, she's still absorbing America as it stands and is yet to sort of openly pass judgment. So that passive aggressive notion plays in really nicely there.
And with the heat theme, and you know, she's overheating. She's at her breaking point.
Mm.
Last night, as I was listening to Sweet Sangria, it was reminding me a lot of Professional Widow, actually, and Professional Widow energy. And I hadn't really made that comparison before. So much so I want to listen to them like back to back now. But Sweet Sangria, you know, she's like Professional Widow's, you know, she's one of Professional Widow's friends, or like her sister, you know, yeah. And she gives, but she doesn't get. And she's just feeling saucy, like Bloodless Rose. She's the thorn. You know, she's gonna sneak in your window and hate fuck you, and then she's gonna ghost.
That's brilliant.
Right? Like that's the energy. She had way too much sangria. She's feeling tipsy. It's a hot night, and she's crawling into your window. You're her desperado,
Yeah.
and she's just gonna hate fuck you, and then ghost. She's crossing the border.
I have to pause for a moment now and ask you, do you write Scarlet's Walk fan fiction? Because I feel like that's where we're going.
I feel like that's where I should go with this, right?
Yes,
I think I should just,
absolutely.
yeah, venture down that road. It would be when we get to the Scarlet's Walk graphic novel.
Oh,
maybe
yes.
maybe I could be a line writer. Uh, yeah, actually, that would be a great graphic novel concept. Is this version of Scarlet, the saucy, passive aggressive hate fucker? You know,
Yes,
can we say that on the podcast? Can we say that?
I'm sure we
Are we
can.
going to get an
I'll just
E
mark it
from
as explicit,
Spotify?
and that's fine.
I mean, Sweet Sangria is explicit. Scarlet's very explicit. Yeah,
Yeah,
just brilliant, brilliant song.
it really, really is. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your erotic fan fiction of Sweet Sangria. This has been a fantastic chat. Thank you.
Okay, Michael and Bailey,
Um,
take
oh,
care
wow.
and nice chatting.
I loved that interview with Michael. It was so much fun. And as promised, here's the little snippet from my talk with Alexander Leger Small.
It's an element of suspense, it's an element of tension that you get these wonderful breaths from when you get into the chorus, and you're kind of, it's like, maybe if we're going with the road trip analogy and exploration, so the verses are a rocky, curving sort of highway along the coast that you have to be really aware, and your hands are at 10 and 2 and you're gripping the steering wheel, and then you hit the straightaway at the chorus and you're just flying down the road. And that's a really beautiful feeling.
Oh yeah. Before one of the shows that we saw, Bailey said, "I feel like something really summery and fun, like Sweet Sangria," and I was like, "Yeah, a song all about conflict and booze."
Yeah. But there's something suspiciously fun about it. I don't know if it's the groove. I don't know if
It's quite funky.
if it's something in her voice, because if you listen to the lyrics, it's not a fun song.
But also, when I was doing my track by track leading up to leaving for the trip, all of my little videos for Instagram, when I got to this track, it occurred to me that this is pretty much the only track on the album where she is not in direct conflict with the man in the narrative. Like, she's actually getting along well with him and sees his side of things, and like they're having a great time, hence the Sweet Sangria.
Yeah.
But what she just can't understand the propensity for conflict, like the senseless fighting, even though she can see that morally perhaps he's right, she just wants us, like, why does someone have to lose? Why are there innocents on either side that are getting hurt and killed? And so it is a breath of fresh air, simply because here's a man that she's like having a great time with, rather than every other man on the album who is a piece of shit.
Yes. Yes. And I wouldn't say he's not a piece of shit either. But she can, and it's a lesson we all can learn, is that, like, sometimes you're with shitty people and you got to figure out how to have the best time you possibly can. And the lyric at the end, "Give me a window," it's become more and more the point of the song for me, that it's
Just trying to understand.
yes, like, open something and, like, I'll take a peek in. It doesn't have to be the front door. I don't need to go all the way into the house, but, like, at least open the window so I can get a sense.
Yeah, because we have to acknowledge that there are some experiences we will never understand. We simply haven't lived the life of someone in a conflict zone. I mean,
we're not people of color. Like all of these things that I think we're going to progress so much further when we stop trying to come at it from an angle of I have to comprehend your experience before I can allow you to have it. Just that acknowledging that, perhaps I will never understand completely. Please exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And exist as yourself.
As yourself.
Don't exist for me or in a way for me.
Precisely.
This is going to be part of our next conversation.
Oh, good. Excellent. And then you made the point when we were discussing this in the car today that your existence, your life, is a political act.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, you know, like we have to kind of recognize that unless we tick all the boxes of what society says that it wants, you know, whiteness, able-bodiedness, Christianity, wealth, and even the people who tick those boxes, I meet so many people who don't enjoy their lives as much as they're supposed to by having had all those, you know, quote unquote privileges and those powers. You know, there's just facing every day and being present in it in itself is an act of politics, and we're needing to be as not just, you know, educated about what's going on politically in the world, but we also just need to show up in life. And I think, you know, when I think about what the trans community is trying to do now is just sort of do what kind of the gay community did, which is just say, we're okay. We're actually super happy humans. Like, we're contributing, we pay taxes, we love, and we like, we're not, like, we're just living our lives here, you guys.
Yeah.
As opposed to sort of being seen as, you know, seen for the problems that get posed. So yeah, I think that's just a good reminder to anyone that, you know, just showing up to every day and being out in the world and contributing whatever way you can is a political act.
Yeah.
You know, anyone who sort of turns around and is like, oh, I'm not a political person. Mate, you are so new. Like, you need to you know, get a clue, because everything is political.
Yes.
You know, the fact that you have a 9-to-5 job is a political scenario. The fact that, you know, you pay taxes, you know, as part of your income is a political scenario. You know, there's a minister for sport. If you attend a sport, you know, like there was a minister for sport in Australia. You know, there is absolute political oversight over every component of civic living. So figure it out, She.
Well, if you came across one of these newbies,
God bless them, everyone.
What's your advice for newbie Virginia?
Yeah, my advice for Virginia is to just start with one thing. And that's, you know, find one thing that is important to you. You know, one cause that you think, you know, that you're passionate about, or you think you could do something to turn around, even in a sort of incremental, microscopic way, and just do one thing. If you're in Australia and you're listening to this, it could just be pay the rent. That's one thing. And it's an easy thing to do. You can look into a range of different things and just do one. And if you can do one and you feel comfortable doing one and you get the value of doing one, then do another one. Or once, you know, that one becomes a habit, you can do 2 and 3 and just grow incrementally. No one's asking you to fix the issue in one lot. No one's asking you to be the champion of that change. You know, revolutions aren't made up of Greta Thunbergs. Revolutions are swarms of people all all coming together. But there's, you know, it's not about being led under one banner. It's about everyone recognizing that we're all in the same shit heap together.
Yes.
You know, you just need to do a little bit. All it takes is for a lot of people to do a little bit. And the other thing I was going to say is, when you do stuff, keep a note of it. You know, be conscious of what it is that you're doing to improve the world around you. You know, even small acts of kindness. You know, keep a sort of impact journal, if you will.
And that's entirely for yourself. Don't use that as a look at what I'm doing.
No, this is not a receipt booklet. This is to help you kind of guide on your own journey.
Yeah. You shared some advice that Yvette had. when we were in New York.
Yeah, the incredible Yvette B, we were talking about trans people in sport, and she was saying how important it is to surround yourself with diverse people, that, you know, in order to broaden your own perspective. You know, so many people who are literally making decisions on behalf of communities they know nothing about and have no real deep understanding of the issue or any other side other than their own, you know, moral postulations. You know, the preaching that they do based on an idea they have about a certain community or a certain issue. And yeah, there was a meme going around a little while ago, like, if you don't have any people of color or disabled people or queer people, you know, in your friendship group, then what's wrong with you? And it's a valuable thing to kind of look around at your life and go, how do I ensure that I do have a diversity of friendships? I do have diversity in my family. It's a valuable thing, and if you don't have it for whatever reason, then this may be your prompt to find it. Start attending different community groups, or going to events, or join a sports team, or do kind of any number of things that are going to introduce you to a broader range of people that's going to give you access to a great deal of education and information, and also a bit of an idea about how to start with this whole making a difference thing.
Absolutely. My advice would be to not let fear rein in your politics. And by this I mean, like, don't let the fear of not being liked for your politics stop you from being passionate about something. Don't let it stop you from speaking out, because I think if you were to lose friends over what you believe in, then perhaps they weren't the right people to be your friends in the first place.
Yeah, and if those people aren't willing to compromise or hear your opinion or value the different stance you take, then they're not your friends. Like, your friends would want to know that an opinion that they have or a thought they have upsets you, and should want to mitigate it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the amount of people who I think, you know, maybe think that they don't like trans people, but then they actually meet a human being and go, oh, actually we have a lot in common, or they're actually a human being, and when I stop having them in my brain as this idea of depravity, and I see a human being who is kind and smiley and happy and innocent, like, you know, it's, you know.
Shall we swap some songs?
We should. The ones that I did, there's a song called Sedated by Hosier that I love. Just going to read you a bit of the chorus here. Sedated, we're nursing on a poison that never stung. Our teeth and lungs are lined with the scum of it. Somewhere for this death and guns, we are deaf, we are numb, free and young, and we can feel none of it. It's just like a brilliant song. It's brilliantly put together. I love it. And there's also a song by an Australian band called Things of Stone and Wood, who I love. And they have an album called The Yearning, which has some beautiful songs in it. I can't believe I haven't mentioned any before now, but there's a song they have called Is This Where I Must Lie? And it's all about the sort of politics and injustices, particularly in Australia, which prompted me to also mention Beds Are Burning by Midnight Oil. So I know we have a few kind of Americans who listen to this podcast, so get your heads around those last two, because they'll give you a very particular insight into Australian politics and some of the shit that goes down in our country.
Yeah. For me, the first one that came to my mind is a song called Human Drama by Planning to Rock, which is all one word if you're planning on looking them up.
If you're planning to rock on looking them up.
They're a fantastic non-binary artist from the UK, and their song Human Drama is very much saying that the personal is political, and sometimes I feel like gender is just a lie, which is a line that I love, and not all sexuality is the same. But yeah, it really speaks to me of the way that our lives are politicized. We haven't done this much, if ever, really, this season, but I am recommending a Tory song as well. Russia came to mind because it's very much a pick a side kind of song.
But
and the fact that she played it at every show, she's definitely drilling that message home that you have to choose a side.
But you also have to build a bridge.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we can't. You know, we really do need to be together on this one. Yeah, and every night I heard something different. Every night it had like a new power to it, which was amazing.
Yeah, me too. And then finally, one that came into my mind was Drone Bomb Me by Anoni. Oh my god, it's just such a freaking brilliant song with a stunning music video, but it really does. It parodies the whole thing by making such a violent political act a sexy love song. It's just such a dichotomy that it works so well.
I would recommend listening to that whole album, Hopelessness. 4 Degrees is like one of the most powerful fucking songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And really kind of puts the climate crisis in right up front and center. So yeah, just listen to that whole album.
The whole album.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I've got a late entry.
Oh, here's a wild card.
That came after talking with Mike and his sort of fan fiction-esque take on Sweet Sangria. I'm going to throw in That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain.
Great. I'm always up for that. I fuck with that. I have time for that. I have all the time in the world for that. Ow. Yeah. And on that note,
we're going to leave you to it, and you can look forward to, I think we've done our maths right, the final 4 episodes.
The top 4. Well, this is a very different stretch now where we kind of, I can't remember where it was, but I sort of was like, oh no, we've got Crazy and Strange coming up.
It's when we went from we were in Denver and driving to Aspen, and we realized we were in carbon territory, which is a whole mindfuck of its own.
Yeah, that's a way to put it.
And then we drive north for a few days through the Rockies, and we realized that the only songs left are Crazy, Strange, and Wednesday. And so...
Which are like basically 3 kicks in the balls for the both of us.
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot of emotions these next 3 episodes. So gird your loins.
Gird them, double gird them.
Oh my god, you have to hear this. So we're staying in Three Forks, and we go to get dinner, and we're like in this like little. It's like pretty much this town is a gas station.
It's called Town Pump.
Yeah, and we go in, and we were like, we'll have to eat something from here, and we got cup of noodles. And we come back, and I'm like, we realized we didn't have the utensils we wanted to eat them with, and I was like, oh, surely we can get a fork from somewhere. And Mike was like, oh, there should be at least 3 of them around here. I mean, like,
please send Bailey
thoughts
your thoughts and prayers. And forks. Forks and prayers.
Forks and prayers. Please also continue to donate to the GoFundMe.
Oh my goodness. Beg pardon.
Oh dear, I'm gonna need so much therapy after this. We love you. We'll see you at the next episode.
Bye.
The Michael's Walk podcast acknowledges that the journey they are undertaking takes place on the sacred and unceded nations of many proud Indigenous peoples. From the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, we are fortunate to call home, to each and every Native American tribe's land we'll set foot on as we travel. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and humbly acknowledge their sovereignty.